But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
Charlie Kirk dropped a $100 million defamation suit on The View. The move landed with the force of a media bombshell. The claim? That the hosts during a nationally broadcast segment falsely tied his organization, Turning Point USA, to extremist hate groups that showed up outside one of their events. Kirk's legal team fired off a cease and desist, then escalated straight to a lawsuit, accusing The View of crossing the line from commentary to character assassination.
Charlie Kirk's the founder and CEO of Turning Point USA and the author of the new book, The College Scam. So, Charlie, do you accept The View's apology?
I mean, regardless of whether or not I accept it, the question is, do our students accept it? That's really what's at heart here. They went after our 5,000 students at our event there of high school and college kids. And look, I get attacked all the time. People say false things. I'm a public figure. But when you go after 16 and 17-year-olds that travel from across the country that then have to live for the rest of their life with a shadow over them because someone at ABC says that they might be linked to
But it wasn't just the content of the lawsuit that made jaws drop. It was the price tag, $100 million. A number so oversized it immediately reframed the story. It stopped being a legal complaint and became a spectacle. It wasn't about money. It was a warning, a signal flare, a direct challenge to a media institution that, in Kirk's view, had operated without consequences for far too long. Critics called it grandstanding. Supporters saw it as long overdue pushback. Either way, the number did its job. It got attention, and that attention set off a chain reaction no one at ABC was ready for. But what really sent this scandal into overdrive wasn't the paperwork. It was the fallout that played out live, in front of millions. As the lawsuit made headlines, Sunny Hostin, legal analyst, co-host, and former prosecutor, was expected to bring clarity. Instead, she brought chaos. During a segment addressing the backlash, Sunny's usually composed demeanor gave way to stammered explanations, defensiveness, and moments that felt less like analysis and more like damage control. Her words were rushed, her tone sharp, her arguments scattered.
Her disgusting, gross elitism and her complete out-of-touch nature with respect to the rest of the world. Sunny Hostin goes on The View and decides now would be a great time to dump all over the so-called uneducated.
What we did not have is white women who voted about 52%, right, for Donald Trump. Uneducated white women, is my understanding. You have Latino men actually voting more for him, and you have and black men was not the story. We're not the story here because they voted almost 80% for the vice president.
What was supposed to be a thoughtful response turned into a viral unraveling. Clips circulated within hours. Sunny panics. Hostin loses it. Legal expert fumbles lawsuit response. It was like watching a train of legalese collide with a wall of public pressure. And then there was Whoopi Goldberg. The veteran host sat in silence, her expressions doing all the talking. Eye rolls, glares, tightly folded arms. Whoopi's body language said what millions of viewers were thinking. This is not going well. It was more than an awkward segment. It was a breaking point. The lawsuit may have been filed in court, but the real damage began on set, in real time, with the cameras rolling. And just like that, the real courtroom wasn't the only place where things started heating up. To understand why this lawsuit hit so hard, you have to understand The View. What started as a roundtable of diverse female voices has, over the years, evolved into a lightning rod for controversy. One where thoughtful dialogue is often drowned out by sarcasm, shouting, and viral-ready outrage. From politics to pop culture, the formula's been simple. Strong opinions, served with sass, and as loud as possible.
Right. Just because you didn't go to college
doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said, working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
For years, critics have accused the show of replacing substance with spectacle, of trading balanced conversation for prepackaged takedowns. Think pieces have called it America's loudest echo chamber, and it's not hard to see why. Debates often collapse into interruptions. Eye rolls get more airtime than ideas, and dissent is treated not just as disagreement, but as betrayal. And this isn't a one-time critique. It's a pattern. Whether it's Meghan McCain storming off set, Whoopi clashing with guests, or Joy Behar sparring with conservative voices, The View has become known less for elevating perspectives and more for weaponizing them. Charlie Kirk's lawsuit doesn't just attack a single segment. It confronts this entire culture, a culture where media personalities can throw punches from plush chairs, then retreat behind the excuse of just opinions. It's that pattern Kirk is aiming to break. But if you think this is just about personal reputation, think again. Kirk's not just targeting The View's comments. He's going after the entire media playbook. To Kirk's supporters, this lawsuit isn't about vanity. It's a declaration of war on media hypocrisy. A challenge to the idea that public figures can be dragged, mocked, and misrepresented with zero consequences. In Kirk's own framing, the lawsuit isn't a money grab. It's a stand for everyday Americans who feel belittled by elite narratives. He's painting this as a cultural mic drop, a pushback not just against The View, but against what he calls the performative outrage economy, the kind of media environment where emotional soundbites override truth and dissenting voices are caricatured instead of confronted.
Turning Point conference, neo-Nazis were in the front of out there in front of the conference with anti-Semitic slurs and, the Nazi swastika.
I think it's important that every single person that attended that Turning Point, every Republican speak up against the swastikas, against the Nazi flags that were waved.
You let them in.
President, open your
You let them in and you knew what they were.
Right.
So you are complicit.
His message is blunt. Freedom of speech isn't freedom from consequences. And when commentary crosses the line into defamation, especially on national television, it stops being protected opinion and starts becoming a legal liability. Of course, not everyone's buying it. Detractors say this is theater, just one more political performance, staged for headlines. But even they admit it's working. Because whether Kirk wins or loses in court, he's already won in the court of public spectacle. And that $100 million number, it's not just a legal claim, it's a rallying cry. And with the lawsuit now gaining traction, one question remains: how far will this reckoning reach? Behind the scenes at ABC, things reportedly went from routine to red alert within hours of the lawsuit announcement. Legal teams were pulled into emergency meetings. Internal communications froze. Suddenly, every segment, every transcript, every offhand remark from past episodes became a potential liability. Producers began combing through footage like forensic analysts, scrubbing archives for anything that might come back to haunt them. Editors who once focused on making viral clips were now playing defense, trying to figure out where the lines had been crossed and how many times. The lawyers weren't just worried about this one case. The real panic? Precedent. If this lawsuit gains traction, or worse, wins, it could fundamentally change the rules of televised commentary. It would mark a turning point in how far opinion-based media can go before it becomes defamation.
We begin with a shocking apology just a short time ago from the ladies of The View to Turning Point USA. A war of words broke out after the conservative group was rallying the next generation of voters at its youth summit in Tampa, Florida this weekend. And the liberal panel just couldn't help themselves. The group sent a scathing cease and desist letter after hosts on The View suggested that Turning Point had embraced neo-Nazis who showed up outside the event.
And with social media blurring the line between commentary and character assassination, the implications reach far beyond The View. It could force a new standard, one where pundits can't simply backpedal with, "It was just a joke," or "That's my opinion." It could mean real accountability for the tone and tactics of infotainment, especially when it targets individuals and organizations by name. And here's where it gets almost poetic.
Right.
Just because you didn't go to college doesn't mean you're stupid, and it doesn't mean that you don't have wisdom. You can go to college and get a bunch of irrelevant facts about how men can allegedly give birth or whatever they teach. But I said this to our team. I said working people, the muscular class, including working women, they are so in favor of Trump, and they don't want to be called stupid or uneducated.
The show that spent years dishing out criticism is suddenly being served a hefty portion of its own medicine. Except this time, the audience isn't clapping. It's watching with legal pads and subpoenas. Because the ultimate twist in this saga, The View, once the self-proclaimed truth-teller, is now squarely in the hot seat. Under the very microscope it's pointed at others for years. For over 2 decades, The View positioned itself as a moral compass of pop culture. A daytime courtroom where issues were judged, sentences were handed out, and the hosts served as both prosecutors and jury, usually with lattes in hand and applause ringing in their ears. But that stage, it just got flipped. Now, the panel that handed out critiques with a smirk is facing consequences under oath. No laugh tracks, no teleprompter edits, just depositions, discovery deadlines, and the possibility of a courtroom showdown where dramatic monologues don't fly. And here's the part that's shaking the studio walls. This isn't just about who said what. It's about who holds power in modern media.
But look, what did it take for us to get to the point of an apology? We had to threaten a lawsuit, Jesse. And by the way, we're still entertaining it. We're talking to some of the best lawyers out there that are experts in this. And as you know, these things can be very complicated. There's a lot of facts and circumstances around it. But we're not going to let this go, because you should not be able to smear 5,000 high school and college kids and then just be able to walk away with it. And the reason they felt they needed to do that, Jesse, is because if they told their audience the truth, that when gas is the most expensive it's been, flights are super expensive, that 5,000 kids decided to spend a weekend in summer traveling across the country to go hear from conservative speakers, maybe the audience of The View would think twice about all of their ideas. That's why they felt so compelled to try to smear our wonderful summit this last week.
And what happens when that power gets abused? For years, The View has shaped narratives, destroyed reputations, and created internet firestorms with a single segment. But now, they're being asked to prove their words weren't reckless, harmful, or deliberately misleading. It's not just about the damage done to Charlie Kirk or Turning Point USA. It's about the media's unchecked power to shape public perception with zero obligation to accuracy or fairness. This moment is the natural result of years of escalating outrage as entertainment. The View isn't just facing a legal battle. They're confronting the consequences of turning real people into content. And suddenly, every smirk, every sarcastic clap, every one-liner that once played like a mic drop now echoes back like evidence. And at the heart of this media storm lies something far deeper than fame or lawsuits. It's a collision between truth, power, and the right to be heard without being mocked into silence. This isn't just TV drama. This is a cultural gut check, a legal gut punch, a moment where spin, sass, and spectacle are no longer enough to escape the weight of real-world consequences. Whether Charlie Kirk wins the case or not almost doesn't matter anymore, because the impact is already here. A bold message has been sent to every network, every host, every show that thinks viral outrage is a substitute for responsibility. Kirk didn't just fire back with a tweet. He pulled out a legal megaphone and yelled, "Enough! Enough of the double standards. Enough of media elites acting like they're above the rules. Enough of turning character assassination into content and calling it journalism." Daytime TV just met a critic who didn't come for ratings. He came with receipts. A new question is echoing louder than ever. What happens when the people who always ask the questions are finally forced to answer a few of their own? The spotlight is still on, but this time, it's a little less flattering and a whole lot more serious. All right, guys, don't just watch politics happen. Understand it. Hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell to never miss an explosive update.